Good afternoon to those joining. We'll get started with the webinar in a couple of minutes, just letting the final registrants and attendees join up. We'll look to get started in a couple moments' time. Thank you to those that are just joining. Like I said, we'll get started in a couple moments' time. Just let the final attendees and registrants join up. For those of you that are waiting, if you could just let us know in the chat panel whether you're able to hear us okay, volume coming through soundly, and you can see the first slide on screen. Perfect. Can see a couple of confirmations. Thank you, guys. We'll get started in just a couple more moments.
All right, everyone, let's begin. My name is Reid Horimoto. I'm a customer success manager at Vyond. I'll be helping to lead the session today, covering some RISE tips and tricks. So our speakers today will be Matthew Cooper, as well as myself, Reid Horimoto. I'll let Matt introduce himself. Matt.
Perfect. Thanks, Reid. Hi, everyone. Yes, my name is Matt. So I lead the customer success team here at Omniplex. I work really closely with our existing Articulate and Vyond customers to make sure they're getting the most out of their software. I'm really keen and excited today to showcase what Vyond can do, what Articulate RISE can do, and why the increasing importance of video-based and mobile-friendly content needs to be recognized, and how these software can help you do that. I have been with Omniplex for 5.5 years and have worked really closely with Vyond on previous webinars, and really psyched to have them joining the webinar session with us today. So yeah, looking forward to it, and I'll pass over to Reid to give a bit more background into him as well.
Thank you, Matt. As for myself, my name is Reid Horimoto. I'm a customer success manager at Vyond. Been with the company for 2 years now, and I help our clients at Vyond to maximize their usage of the platform. So making sure they're using the key features, sometimes helping them with their content, workshopping their ideas, basically ensuring that they capture the most value out of their subscription. I used to work in risk management and fraud prevention prior to Vyond, but liking it very much as a customer success manager for Vyond. I'll be here to help demo the Vyond side of things. With that, Matt will do some webinar housekeeping notes.
Yes. So I assume and presume that for most of you guys, this isn't the first time you've attended a Zoom meeting or Zoom webinar or jumped onto an Omniplex one previously, but just a couple of key areas of note. You are all as default on mute. So your primary ways of communicating are through the chat and the Q&A. If you do have a direct question about what we're showing, please do use the Q&A function within your ribbon at the bottom. The reason for this is it's much easier for us to track, for us to answer at the end on the call. And if we aren't able to answer it live on the session, then we'll be able to track and report on who asked that question and get back to you at a later date post webinar. We will be monitoring the chat as well, though. So if you are wanting to, if you accidentally slip a comment or a question into the chat, no problem. We will do our best to recognize it. We may type it into the Q&A as well to make sure that it's not matched. But the chat really there just for feedback, to make sure you can see our screen, hear everything okay, and the Q&A for those questions. I'll let Reid dive into the agenda in a moment, but it doesn't make any sense. So if there are any issues, please do put them in the chat and the Q&A now, just so we can make sure that everything's sorted for you before we get stuck into the presentations and some of the demoing as well. It doesn't look like there's any immediate queries or chat feedback there, and hopefully you guys can all see them as users. I'll pass back now to Reid to talk through the agenda for today's webinar.
Thank you, Matt. All righty. So for today's agenda, first, we're going to talk about how or why video and interactivity is important in content, but specifically as it relates to e-learning. Then we'll go into some specific tips and tricks, and we've divided these tips and tricks into sections: beginner, intermediate, and advanced, covering both Vyond and Rise. So hopefully you'll get some ideas on how you can improve your e-learning content. As Matt mentioned, we will have time at the end for questions. So if you do have any, please pop them into the Q&A section, and we'll do our best to answer as many as possible once we get to that question and answer section. With that being said, let's jump into our first topic, video and interactivity. So why is video so important? Video is becoming, more and more important even before the pandemic started. Businesses today are realizing that with video, it's much more effective than a stale presentation or a simple document or static web page. Video allows more control over the content itself, but also how that content is presented. If you look at a site like YouTube, which is the world's most popular video hosting service, it has about 2 billion users in 2021, and more companies are starting to include videos. Most companies have some kind of YouTube presence. Even they're including it as a part of their communications strategy, both internally within the company, but also externally to clients, partners, customers, etc. So this reliance on video, it's important to know how to leverage video to have it work for you. And this is especially important when you're using video in e-learning courses, as the material that you're presenting, it's often business critical material, such as training or information on company policies or procedures, etc. So our goal today is to provide some guidance on some ways that you can improve the effectiveness of Vyond videos and how they fit into your Rise courses. Now, if we take a look at this slide, it's a hierarchy of persuasive media with less effective forms on the left and more effective forms on the right. So you kind of get more effective as you go from left to right. Now, the thing with this hierarchy, if we just take a moment to consider the current business world, is the in-person delivery has become much more difficult to coordinate or integrate into your communication strategy. So the video option is now the more feasible option for many companies worldwide, especially as they shift to a more hybrid, work from home type of scheduling for their employees. So if you're able to effectively leverage video in your communication strategy, you'll still be able to capture some of that in-person effectiveness, but in a much easier way. It's much easier for a person to create a video than it is to coordinate with other people or another person to do some kind of in-person session. So this is a general background on why video is important and the benefits it can bring to you and your company. With that said, let's start our first tip, or our first section, I guess, the beginner tip. And this involves using ambient video. So as you can see, this is what could be a title card or a title screen for a Rise course logging into the Vyond website, but it has an animated background as well as a screenshot of the actual Vyond webpage here in the center. So rather than have just a simple title logging into Vyond, we're creating some excitement around the course, just making this initial first impression that the course taker would have a bit more exciting and engaging. Now, another way or another alternative that you have is this example. So a simple animated screen that, in this case, confirms a correct answer, or maybe, if there's a wrong answer, you could create a different version. But in this way, you're able to give your course taker an exciting kind of note once they get an answer correct. Instead of a green check mark next to a radio bubble that they click to fill in, you're able to give them some encouragement as they're going through the material. Now, I'll cover how I created those in Vyond, and just checking, can everyone still see the website here? Okay, so I'm in the Vyond platform, and I have the scene that I created up on screen. This scene was created using an animated background. So by going to the background tab here at the top right, I'm able to select these various backgrounds. Some of them are static, but we do also offer animated backgrounds. So if I were building this scene from scratch, starting from a blank scene, I could search for one of these animated backgrounds indicated with this play button icon, select it, and then it's applied to what we're looking at here. Now, right now it's not animated because we're in the process of building the video. If I preview the scene for you all, you'll be able to see that the bubbles kind of float toward the top there. And that gives this scene its animatedness. Now, for that second option, that correct answer indicator, we also have a lot of pre-made content that you can use when you're building video. So in this case, I searched for a correct option, and oh, it was not correct. I forget the search term, but we can use this as an example as well. So having this character do like a green check mark, just indicating that the answer is correct or accurate. This can serve as one of those indicator scenes that you can use just to give your viewer or course taker some encouragement as they're going through your material. Now, one other feature I wanted to mention right now is the ability to adjust the aspect ratio of videos. And Matt will get into this a little bit later in the presentation, but mobile learning has become more prevalent in today's business world. So if you're able to craft material that just makes it easier for viewers to look at on a mobile device, it can be very beneficial. Sometimes you have employees on the field that need to access some kind of training material, and making it easier for them will help to ensure that they actually consume that content. So the way that you can adjust the aspect ratio in Vyond is through the video settings gear icon here at the top, and then changing this drop-down menu under aspect ratio here. So by default, it's horizontal, landscape orientation, if you will. You can change it to vertical or portrait, and right away you can see the similarities between this orientation and a cell phone, for example. So our aspect ratio, the ability to edit the aspect ratio is a feature that can be beneficial when you're creating your course content. With that, let's get back to the presentation, and I'll hand it over to Matt to talk about the Articulate suite of products.
Lovely. Thanks, Reid. We'll actually stay on the slide just for this very brief introduction, because hopefully with a number of you attendees joining to today's Omniplex and Vyond webinar, you are familiar with Articulate 360. We are Articulate sole certified partner in the UK, and Articulate 360 is their flagship suite of applications. It very much is a complete e-learning solution. And for those of you that are familiar, the two primary authoring tools within Articulate 360 are Storyline and Rise. We'll reference both of those today in the presentation, Rise more so than Storyline. But it's worth noting that if you are maybe seeing it for the first time or having a refresher being a historical user of just Storyline, if you need access to Rise and the tools we're showcasing today, you will need a subscription of Articulate 360. If we just move to the next slide, we can talk about Rise in just a little bit more detail. Rise is Articulate's first cloud-based authoring system. So you are able to build and create content through your browser. I'll jump into the software in just a moment, but one of the reasons that the tool was so well required in the first place was, as Reed highlighted, the increasing need for mobile-friendly content, and Rise really delivers on that from an Articulate standpoint, because any content that you build within Rise 360 is going to respond perfectly to the platform it's being viewed on, whether that be mobile, tablet, laptop, desktop. We'll be able to showcase what that looks like for you in the demonstration that we'll dive into. Reed, if you just head to the next slide for me. As I touched on, mobile learning is on the rise. And this has only been accelerated by what has happened with COVID and more organizations having to work from home, having to use their own devices. Being able to create content that you can deliver to learners so they're able to access it in the flow of work, on their smartphone, on their tablet, at least giving them the flexibility of choice is such a powerful way to ensure that your learners are getting the key information that they need in a way that best suits them, so that they can access them not just when it's mandatory or compliant, but when they need to access content on the go and they need to learn key information. We want them to be able to find content in the same way they would on their phone if they were going to YouTube or going to Google, which are most people's first two steps when they're looking to learn something very quickly. If you're able to make your company's content mobile ready, friendly to access, you're going to make it much easier for your learners to go, I have an issue at work, I need to access it this way. And they can do it very quickly, whether they're working from home, whether they're working in the office. You can see there that learning leaders, company leaders are seeing improvement already in their business after embracing mobile learning. And video is such a massive part of that. So the fact that you've got video that you can build in Vyond that massively reflects the ease to respond to the platform it's being viewed on, video content really suits very nicely into, video content suits really nicely for learners that are on their mobile, on their tablet, on their phone, because they're so used to consuming content in that way. So naturally, Rise in the Articulate 360 suite and Vyond work really, really well together. So what I'm going to do is share my screen and just talk a little bit about Rise, give you guys a very brief introduction if you're seeing it for the first time, and then talk about how we can start providing more content and bringing in Vyond content into Rise really easily. I will just need you guys to double check and confirm for me in the chat that you're able to see that okay. That you can see the Articulate 360 Rise homepage. Oh, fantastic. No technical difficulties so far. So this is the Rise 360 homepage. As I touched on, it's cloud-based. I'm building and accessing this content through my browser, recommended Microsoft Edge or Google Chrome for those of you that are interested. But what we're going to be doing is going through and adding one of the animated Gifs that Reed has so expertly created to bring our content to life, even from a very beginner accessing stage. So on my screen at the moment, you can see some of the more recent courses that I've been working on. And you can see that we've got logging into Vyond Rise webinar. For all the other ones, they have got thumbnail cover images that are static. These are static images that we've put in. You can use your own, you can use the content library. But one of the nice things you can do with Vyond by creating animated GIFs is that you're able to create an animated thumbnail that's going to really grab your the attention of your learner from the get-go. So when we're going into a course, we click into Rise, you're going to have the same building experience as a creator every time with Rise. It's got a very modular style build that allows you to replicate the process over and over again. So you're able to create really high consistent quality content every time. And like I said, you don't need to worry about the responsiveness because it's built into the tool. But for this example, what we want to do is add a cover photo that is animated. So when you are starting to build out your course, you'll have your intro page here. What we want to do is go to settings. And the first settings tab that we reach is theme, where you can upload your logo. You can obviously make it more brandable. You can customize the theme and the accent colors. That could be a custom color to match with your brand guidelines. And what you're also able to do is add in a cover photo. So what we'll do is we'll add a cover photo in here. You've got a number of built-in options from Rise, but what we want to do is upload a photo. And as you can see, almost like a cooking show, I've prepared all of the images and cogs that Reed has built. And what we want to use is beginner title. It's a GIF file. If I click on that and click open, what it will do is add in our animated GIF. So when I close, and I very quickly go back to our home page, just giving it a moment to load. Of course, first technical difficulties experienced is the stress of the Wi-Fi. But as you can see, you've now got an animated GIF, which already differentiates it from everything else you've got on your screen. And with the speed in which you can build a single animated GIF within Vyond, it's a really nice, neat way of taking your content when it sits within Rise, when it sits within your learning management system, to a new level. And when we go into the intermediate and the advanced tips for Rise and using Vyond content, we'll actually be diving into the course and showcasing how you can add in your Vyond videos into Storyline and then into Rise, and also how you can add different elements in Rise to supplement that video content as well. But if there are any questions about what we've just gone through there, anyone would like to go through this process, as I said, this webinar will be recorded, but a really nice way to begin your content and bring Vyond content and Rise content together just from a title slide scene. I'll pass back now to Reed, who will be able to dive back into the presentation and start talking through the intermediate.
Alrighty, let me get my screen back up here. Is that the right one? Yes, it is. Okay, so should be back in present mode, and my chat window disappeared. Where is it? Are we good? Can everyone see the slide deck again? Just looking at the chat here. Alrighty, so let's continue. So now we'll cover an intermediate technique. So an intermediate technique is to actually create a short video that is accompanying your course. And this is a very useful way to convey additional information. If you take a look at this video, which I'll play right now, which I will hopefully play right now. There we go. You can see my character enter the scene, take a seat at his computer. The view then shifts to a screenshot of the Vyond webpage, and we see a mouse cursor move to click the link. So creating a short video is an excellent way to provide some additional details and information to your course taker. Sometimes if you think about scenario-based training, for example. If we, just as a kind of hypothetical, a customer support training module where an employee is interacting with a customer. Sometimes it's important to show how that interaction proceeds. And there are things that you can show in a video that you can't always capture with text or with a picture alone. In this case, the second section of the video, when we shift from the person to the actual screenshot of the Vyond website and have that mouse cursor move to that login link at the top right, we could certainly describe that process via text. We could certainly have a simple screenshot of just the login page, but the reality is most people are very comfortable using a computer, and by seeing that screen in action, they can relate to that. You know, it's a website and you move your mouse to click the login link. It's very relatable to the viewer, the content. So creating a short video is a great way to add some additional context as well as just spice up the content that you have. So in order to demonstrate this, I'm going back into Vyond, and here we can see the video. Let me close this. Here we can see the video as it's been created with the 2 scenes in the office, and then shifting to the 3 scenes that focus on the actual screenshot of the web page. So I'm not going to go through the complete building of this right now. I want to make sure we have enough time in the presentation, but just breaking down what each of these scenes contains. In this first scene, I have my character here who's walking in from off of the stage to the left. I'm continuing the scene, so basically starting a new scene that contains the exact same elements. But in this scene, I have a different action applied to my character, and that's the actual sitting down action where he sits down in his chair. My next scene, scene number 3, is a brand new scene with a computer monitor. And in Vyond, we actually have the ability to mask assets or certain assets. The mask feature, it just allows you to input something inside of, an asset. So in this case, I put a screenshot of the Vyond web page into this computer monitor. So it looks like the monitor is showing the website. I then made use of our camera tool. This is another one of the marquee features of Vyond, the camera. It allows you to adjust the kind of what the viewer is seeing, and it's represented by these boxes. So this orange box is the starting view, and the camera movement to this yellow box, which I'll preview quickly, it zooms the camera in and focuses on the Vyond webpage screenshot. And then in scenes 4 and 5, these last 2 scenes, I just added a mouse cursor prop to this scene, as well as applied a motion path. So the motion path allows the prop, in this case, the mouse cursor, to move. And we have multiple motion paths that are available. I used a relatively simple line motion path and just added this gentle curve. This gentle curve to make it look more natural. And finally, I added a simple rectangle prop and changed the color to yellow to make it a bit more visible for the viewer, as well as added an enter effect and an exit effect that makes this highlighted box just appear and then disappear as a kind of visual indicator to let the viewer know that this is where I'm going to be clicking on. So all of these elements together go into this video. You're able to then download the video, and we have a couple of different options available in terms of quality. The 720p is the default version and is constantly generated while you're working in Vyond, so that download is pretty instantaneous. In this case, I went with the higher quality version, 1080p. It's a shorter video. Want to make sure I have the best quality. You click the generate video button, the file downloads as an MP4 file, and then you're able to put it into your Rise course. So with that, let me pass it. I'll just stop sharing now, Matt, and I'll pass it back to you so you can cover the Rise section.
Perfect. Lovely. So yeah, I'll share again. Just 1 moment. Fantastic. So once we have actual video content that we want to use within a Rise course, it's now that we can dive into the Rise software itself and learn a little bit more about what we are trying to build, the type of information that we're looking to provide. Like I said, we're not going to be doing a deep dive into Rise today, but more just to show you how quickly you can publish content from Vyond and begin using it in your Rise content. So if I go to add content, when you're building within Rise, everything is done by either building a lesson or a quiz. And if you're looking to provide information to a learner, maybe in the form of a video or other content, then you want to be using the lesson block. The great thing about Rise when you're building content is that there's nothing hidden from you. Everything that you can build and use within a Rise content is found here. Like I said, it's a modular widget-based build style that allows you to create high quality, consistent content that is viewed and consumed in the same way every time, very, very quickly. And the benefit being is that the mobile responsive nature of the course is built in. So you only need to build each course once. And I'll demonstrate what that looks like for you in a moment. But let's say, for example, if we were doing a demonstration of logging into Vyond, we may want to start with some text. You very simply click on the text block and it will put your placeholder in for you. You can then go through and look at the 9 most consistently used blocks and go, yeah, I would like to add in an image or a labeled graphic or a continue button. For us, obviously, what we want to do is add in a video. So let's say we've got some text at the start and we're then adding in a video. What it will do is it will put a placeholder in for you every time. So when you're building within Rise, you can actually begin to almost storyboard your course from within the software itself, because you can start to get a feel for how it will look and how it will be consumed. But of course, we don't want to use these placeholders. We want to use our own resources. So what you would do is hover over the block you want to use or customize, and an edit button will appear in the top left. If we click on edit, what we can do is focus on the content or the settings. And what we want to do is replace our Rise video. Now, what we want to do is very quickly add in our video, which has been published from Vyond as an MP4 file. It's saved locally on my machine, and it's a really quick process for me to click open that and for it to upload the video. So once I've published from Vyond, it really is almost a 3-click process to get it into your Vyond, into your Rise content. And you'll be able to test and see how that views from within the course. This is how a learner would see it if they were taking the content on a desktop. So if we click play the video, you can see that it's working as required. And with all video content you're importing into Rise, you've got the ability to change the play speed, make it full screen, and adjust the audio as well. There's no restriction on the size of Vyond video that you can import into Rise as well. So whether it's a 12-second short video here that you're incorporating, or whether it's going to be a longer piece of, an informative video, you're able to include that as well. And you're able to include as many pieces of content, as many videos within a single course as you would like. And what's great is that you can begin to supplement it with some of the other blocks in there. So if you wanted to make them watch the video about a certain piece of information, then add in some interactive elements, you're absolutely able to. Read referenced at the start that, yes, having mobile friendly content that allows you to access it on the move is great, but you still want to make sure that at the core of that content is engaging and interactive content. So the fact that you're able to add in different bits of media or add in different interactive blocks means that you're able to create not just an attention-grabbing experience from a learning standpoint, but also the ability to get the learner engaging and applying their knowledge from the video afterwards, whether that be going through a process, a sorting activity, a flashcard grid, or button stacks. You're able to really get your learner engaging with your RISE content following on from the Vyond video that's been created. You also got the ability to add in captions, extra instructions that you'd like to see. But one thing that's worth noting is just how easy it is to demonstrate the mobile responsiveness of RISE. So we'll just preview this very, very simple demonstration that we've created here. We've got our text and we've got our video. And you can see that up top in the right-hand corner, if I was viewing this on desktop, this is what it would look like. If I go into tablet, the text, the video will adjust. If I go into tablet landscape, again, the video, the text, the title, everything within RISE is going to respond naturally. And it will be the same again when I go into video. I go to play the video, adjust the text when I'm in mobile, landscape, and portrait as well. The one area that I would note here, though, is that if you are publishing on a learning management system, you would need a learning management system that is mobile friendly, whether it has a mobile app or has the ability for learners to consume content on mobile. You would need to ensure that your LMS is mobile friendly if you're publishing your RISE and Vyond content there as well. But what I'll do is I will close this, and in the advanced section, we'll be talking about adding our Vyond videos into Storyline and then customizing them further before bringing them into RISE as the final element. And I'll stop my share there and I'll pass back to Reid now.
All righty, let me get my screen back here and present. Okay, so for the advanced technique, this technique is going to cover adding markers. So I'm going to quickly play this short video, which is the same screenshot of the website, but I've added some circle props. Let me pause the video right here. So these circle props are used as placeholders, basically, for markers. And markers just allow you to add interactive elements to, in this case, this scene here. The creation of this in Vyond is quite simple. I've started with the basic screenshot of the website and then added some props. In this case, circle props. So to create this in Vyond, starting from a blank scene, I'm going to my upload tab, which is where I have all my external assets. So resources, material assets that I've already created or have available. In this case, I have this screenshot of our website that I'm going to add to my scene. And you can adjust the sizing as needed, just to make things a bit more visible. And within the platform, we've recently released a feature that allows you to lock assets to the stage. The stage is what we call this working area here in the center. And what that does is it just makes this screenshot here, this picture, just static, stuck to the working area. So now I can use it almost as a background and put things on top of it. So searching for a circle, we have a lot of different options, simple options like this, a simple circle, animated options. In this instance, I'm just looking for a very basic circle, something like this, which I will resize and place them under each of these links here. So the idea behind setting up this scene with these various props and having these interactive elements within the scene is to keep your viewer or course taker immersed in the content. When you think about training courses, they range from, you know, they range, or what's the word here? They run a wide range of topics, of, you know, processes. Some are more interesting than others. And in cases when you have, or where you have a topic that might not be as interesting, you know, maybe compliance or some other kind of training that's required, but might not be as exciting of a topic, you know, your main goal is to make sure your viewer understands the information and material. So anything you can do to get them excited about the content and keep them engaged is important, because it basically lowers or reduces any hesitancy or barriers that the person might have towards this training. You know, the thought that, oh, this is a training course, I don't want to take this, why do I have to take this, kind of thing. By making it exciting for them, by including these elements that keep them engaged in the content, you can ensure that they kind of absorb the information that you have. So after explaining all that, let's pass it back to Matt so he can cover the way to integrate this into Rise using Storyline. So I'm going to stop sharing now.
Perfect. Thanks, Reid. So what I've done here, and just let me know in the chat if you're able to see this okay, I've moved into Storyline. Again, for those of you that are maybe seeing this and thinking, I've not seen Rise or seen Storyline before, we do have future webinars on Articulate 360 as more of a deep dive there. But Storyline is the other primary authoring tool within the Articulate 360 suite, and works brilliantly if you want to import Vyond content into Storyline. But you can also take Storyline content directly into Rise. And this is really helpful because there are a few areas where you can build content in Storyline that isn't necessarily possible within Rise, so you're able to import it there. But what I will do to start is just import the video that Reid has just created, not from the content library, apologies, from our file. And if I go into there, it's the advanced markers video. And when I click open, it brings our video content into the slide. And I'm able to preview this and play it. You know, when you import a video piece of content into Storyline, it gives you a few more customization options that you didn't necessarily get within Rise, whether that's adjusting the video volume or editing it so you're able to crop it or silence it from within here. The other area where Storyline comes into its own is around accessibility and the ability to add in things like closed captions. This is going to really help make sure that your content is, you know, in a word, accessible to all, and going to be able to be consumed by all of the different members of your organization, regardless of their requirements. Now, you could build those subtitles, those closed captions within Vyond, but it may be easier if you have got a video that has got audio included, maybe not in this example, that you bring it into Storyline and add those closed captions as well. The one thing to note, and where Storyline slightly differs from Rise, is in that responsive nature. So when you are bringing your video into Storyline, you may notice that it doesn't take up the entirety of the slide screen. Now, this is something that you can customize within your slide size and setup by moving it to one of the custom presets, or by using a custom slide size setup as well. And that's found within your design tab. If I move it from 16 to 9, what we can do is resize that video to make it a better fit for Vyond content. And that's something really key to note. If you are importing video content in, the slide size setup being 16:9 works a lot better for video content. But like I said, when you have got your video adding in accessibility options like closed captions or being able to edit or silence the video, you can do within Storyline, but you can't do within Rise. So what you may want to do is do that first, add it into Storyline, add these extra elements or sections that you would want, and then publish it in a format that can be imported into Rise. So what you can do, as with any Storyline slide, is begin to add elements to sit on top of the video, whether it be text, whether it be an interactive object, whether it be further resources that you want to pop up at different times on the video to direct a learner's attention to a particular area. You're absolutely able to do this. And this is where it just offers you a lot more flexibility. If you are an Articulate and a Vyond user, you can do a lot of this customization within Vyond itself and publish it as a video straight for Rise. But if there are a few elements that you want to add that you think Storyline would increase the quality of that learning experience, then you can bring the Vyond video in and add different resources to it and manage it alongside the timeline as well. But we will just leave this as it is for now, because I just want to showcase how you can add Storyline content into Rise as this final advanced tip. The one thing that I would say, though, is that if you are adding content into Rise from Storyline, you want to consider customizing your player. The reason for this is the player looks slightly unusual when you are incorporating, let me just put it across from my other screen, in that you don't necessarily want this border to be showing because it looks slightly out of place when you're importing it into a Rise course. So what's great is you can remove and customize all of these sections so that you are able to very quickly, very simply provide a much cleaner looking slide or video piece of content that you're going to import into Rise. So if I click OK, and if I remove the previous to next buttons here, which you do using your little cog in your bottom right hand corner, we're now ready and happy for this content to be published. Now, in order for you to publish it and import it into Rise, you actually need to first publish it into Review 360. So we will call this Vyond Test, and we will publish this to Review, another one of the tools within Articulate 360 that allows you to gain stakeholder feedback. When I publish this, we'll just give this a second. What we'll be doing is going back into Rise and importing it from there. So you can see that we've got our project. It's been published successfully. If I click on View Project, it will take us into the viewable format of our video. But what I want to do is go back into Rise now. We'll add in our second lesson, which will be Storyline. Always testing the typing. Storyline block. We can add our content. Again, we want to provide information, so we'll use a lesson. And what we want to do is click all blocks, interactive, scroll all the way to the bottom, and you've got the option there to import your Storyline block. So what it will do, it will ask you to browse the Review 360 format. And let's see if I can find it. It will always be the way. Where is our Vyond test? Where are you? But I mean, for the sake of this, we can use another Vyond video that we've provided, which is what if I click, it will play and have our Storyline video that's been further customized and added to, and you're able to play from there. And again, it will sit in, but any of the extra benefits that you've added, whether it be captions, whether it be accessibility guidelines, closed captioning, subtitles, all of that will show, and it will still format and view like a traditional video in Rise as well. And with that, with it being in Rise, you then get the responsive benefit as well. So hopefully you can see how you can begin to incorporate Storyline, Rise, and Vyond together in order for you to bring in a finalized piece of video content that's going to be mobile friendly and really beneficial towards you helping your team achieve your learning objectives. With that, I'll pass back to Reid in the presentation, conscious that we've shown a lot to you today in course of Vyond and Rise, and now able to answer a few questions around both of those that have popped up around throughout the webinar. So I'll share my close my share, and we'll move back to the presentation with Reid now.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. Oh, just raising my hand. Don't want to do that. So let's go back to the presentation, and now we have time for questions. So does anyone have any questions on anything we've covered so far, or anything else about Vyond or Rise or the Articulate Suite that you'd like to know more about?
Hey, Matt and Reid, this is Amanda from the Vyond team. So far, I have one really great question from Martin at the beginning, but anyone else feel free to send your questions into either the Q&A or the chat, and we'll try to answer as many as possible. But the first one from Martin is about the beginning step when you were showing how to add the GIF as a thumbnail in Rise. Martin was asking if there's a way to stop the animation once the user starts the course. And I know on my end in Vyond, when I want a GIF to sort of stop playing at the end, there's no way to specifically do that, but you can extend the tail end of the last scene so that it at least has a break before starting again. There's also a way to do a seamless GIF. But Matt, do you know if there's any setting on Rise to make that stop repeating?
Yeah, not so much within Rise, but you can customize slightly more in Storyline in terms of making a GIF only, a GIF or an image only be part of a slide for a certain period. With Rise, in the example that we touched upon, where we use the GIF as the cover photo, that will just continuously play. But it's worth noting that although the cover photo is animated, when you get into the actual course within Rise, you won't see the cover photo anywhere, so it won't detract any attention from your Rise course. But in terms of having images or GIFs or videos stop within Articulate, the customization options are going to be much more well-rounded within Storyline, and then of course you can format that into Rise. The one area that I would say is that you are also able to create very short videos within Vyond as well. So if you only want that animation to play through once, you can publish it as a very short video as opposed to an animated GIF.
Great. Those are really good tips. I wasn't sure if the GIF would still show when you started the course or not. So that's really helpful. Martin says, thank you. Another good question that has come up from Tiffany is if there's a way to make Vyond videos interactive in Rise, maybe the ability to add clickable knowledge checks inside of the video or other clickable elements. I know the answer to that for Vyond specifically, but Matt, if you can speak to that for within Rise or within Storyline.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Tiffany. I mean, it's not something that that we see used too typically. If I just reshare my screen very quickly, where are we? Sorry, it may just take away from your the share that's going on at the moment. But within the video that we've plugged into Storyline here, this is where you're able to add additional markers or buttons that can pop up at different areas within the course, within the video. So while the video is playing, you can set a button, for example, to just appear 3 seconds through the video, for example, and you can get that to transition or animate in as you would if you've used other presentation tools like Prezi or PowerPoint. So within Storyline, you can add elements on top of the video and then import that into Rise as a completed object. But Amanda, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe that's necessarily possible within Vyond to add those sort of interactive quiz questions throughout the course or throughout.
Correct. No, it is not possible. It's something that has to be done within a separate hosting provider or learning management tool or course authoring tool like you're describing. So no hotspots or buttons in Vyond itself, but you can create a video with that in mind and create add the button to the video or make it part of your video creation experience, knowing exactly where you'll add those points in storyline after the fact.
Yeah, and Tiffany, just one final area. I mean, in terms of not being able to do it within the video, but within Rise, the next block that you could put directly under the video could be a knowledge check or an interactive engagement to let the learner apply their knowledge. So you can surround the course with, surround the video with interactive elements within Rise, just not necessarily within the video itself, but within storyline, you've got an option there to add customizations or closed captions on top of the video.
Great. And I have another question. I'm not sure if you've already spoken to this. I'm not as knowledgeable with Rise 360, but the question is, can you use Vyond GIFs on interactive blocks within Rise? For example, flip cards.
Great question. So I'll actually, I'll keep my share screen up actually, so we can go through and explore these questions together. So in terms of the query that was given there, GIF on interactive objects. So if we go to add our content here and we go to add our lesson, if we use a interactive object, I assume the option there was flashcard. I think was the one that was referenced in the question. What you
flip
can do,
cards. I don't know if there's a difference.
Yeah, flip cards, flashcards. The
okay.
two are the same. But what we can do is we can use a full card image that will put in a placeholder for us here. And if we click edit and we replace the image, and if we use our beginner title one again, what it will do is it will put that animated sort of ambient movement based GIF as the front of the flashcard. So they can click on that and it will provide more information. So the simple answer to that is yes. It's the same way that you would import any other image, static or GIF. You can use those in your interactive elements within Rise.
Great. And I have 2 more questions for now. We have about 4 minutes left, but if anybody does have more questions, we're happy to stay at just a couple minutes over for anybody who would like to stick around. But second to last question, at least for the moment, is again for Matt. Can you lock the Vyond video in Rise so learners can't skip past it?
Great question. So this is more of a wider sort of Rise question around navigation. So if you click on settings, when you're back in the primary section, you've got the navigation button here. So when you are in the navigation tab within the Rise course, you're able to allow learners to either work through all of the sections freely, or you can restrict them in that a learner has to go through each lesson in order before it unlocks the next one. There's also a sidebar menu that normally allows learners to navigate throughout the sections. You can also remove that or close it so it's not openly available for learners to move through. As you can see, there are the abilities to customize video playback speed as well. So if you want someone to play it, but you don't want them to turn it up to double speed so it goes through quickly, you can turn that off as well. So you're going to be benefiting from your learner actually consuming the content. So the navigation tab is great for restricting navigation, making sure they have to complete each section as well, each section before it unlocks the next one. But in terms of the actual content itself, when you are in when you've uploaded a piece of video content here, you're able to go through settings, and you can also remove the ability to forward seek. So they won't be allowed to skip the video towards the end as well. So you've got a few options here that means that a learner won't be able to move to the next lesson until the entirety of the video has been watched. And also you can remove the ability for them to forward seek and complete the video. So they will see it, they will have to watch the entirety of it, And it will also help if you add in quiz questions, knowledge checks, or interactive elements that apply to the video that they've just watched as well. You can also adjust the video width if you've got something that would benefit full width, or maybe a smaller video if you've got it to a less decent video quality.
Great. And you may or may not have spoken to this. Again, apologies. Vyond is my specialty. I'm not as familiar with
Amanda,
Vyond,
of course. No, nice to see people already thinking about using the two of them together.
Oh, for sure. But we have somebody in the audience just mentioned that you can also add a completion button at block level within Rise. So I'm not sure if you mentioned that.
Perfect. Yes, Martin, a great point as well. So you've also got the ability to add in completion buttons at the end of sections, as well as continue buttons as well. So learners are able to navigate through the course.
Great. So it looks like we have one additional question and then the one I was referencing before. So still two more questions, and I think we'll probably end it there. So second to last question again. If I have two Vyond videos, one in landscape format and the other in portrait, can I show them in Rise the landscape video on PC format and portrait video in a tablet, smartphone? I guess sort of speaking to different aspect ratios and how to use them in mobile and on PC just a bit more.
Yeah, so Daniel, I think one of the options you've got there is what we touched on earlier around importing it into Storyline first, and then customizing the slide size to benefit the landscape and portrait format. So when I was within Storyline, you'll notice that I went into the slide size setup and adjusted the slide size to account for the more traditional landscape build of the Vyond video, but you can customize it the other way to put it in a landscape format, which you can then import your landscape, your portrait video into, and then embed it into Rise as well. So one of the options that I think would work well there is using the Storyline slide size customization. And within Rise, as I was just touching on, you've got the benefit of also adjusting the video width, whether you want it to be small width, medium width, or full width. So for that portrait video, the small width is going to be much more beneficial for you because you don't want it stretched across the screen if it's been built in a particular format. But that's if you're importing it straight into Rise. I would consider testing the Storyline slide size setups for you to customize from there.
Great. And then, yes, looks like this is our last and final question. So maybe Matt, if you can end us off with explaining, somebody asked earlier about pricing, specifically for Vyond, but maybe for the rest of the people on the webinar, combining the two together. I don't know if you offer discounts for combinations or what you can speak to about the sales process, or anybody that wants to contact you.
So Amanda, great question, and thank you for whoever put this, for Zara, I think it was, that put this forward. So yeah, in terms of the offering that Omniplex provides, Vyond's UK partner, it's access to the software. There are different versions of the software that are available to purchase. It is a subscription software, so it will be something that you purchase on an annual basis, but you can accrue further discounts by purchasing for multi-year. There are also bulk discounts available with Vyond as well if you are looking for a team of developers to be building content, and you start to see the benefit as soon as you start moving above one user for your team. In terms of sort of packaging it up with Articulate, they are two separate software. So it would be two separate purchases, but we can sync them up so that if you are buying Articulate brand new and Vyond brand new, that they start on the same day, so that your renewal date will be on the same day as well for these accounts. In terms of pricing, it's one of those where we'd love to just learn a little bit more about your requirements in terms of number of users, whether there would be a requirement for training on Vyond, which we offer as well. But there's a lot of information on the Omniplex website around initial pricing and training, but there are a number of ways that discounts can be accrued through the purchase of Vyond and Articulate, primarily through bulk discounts through purchasing multiple subscriptions, and also multi-year purchases if you're looking to use the software on a longer term basis, and benefiting that way as well. But Of course, myself or one of the team here at Omniplex would be more than happy to have a discussion with any of the UK-based or European-based viewers today. If you would like more information around pricing, please do reach out to help@omniplex.co. That's help@omniplex.co. I'm sure myself or Pranam can put that in the chat, and we'll be more than happy to answer any questions you have, functional, technical, or commercial as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. So it doesn't look like we have any more questions. So I think we'll end it here. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining with us today and for all of your great questions.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Everyone.
We'll catch up soon. Thank you for your time today.